So crypto markets are seeing a little bit of green opening up the week. Today is Monday. We have some key news events that are going to be happening this week that are mainly revolved around the labor market. Last week, we had some key news events that were closing out September and the inflation data that we were seeing, guys. We're still expecting more rate cuts moving into October, and there's a lot of talks around Bitcoin dominance, potentially, still moving up, more deviations around Bitcoin and Ethereum, and exactly what to expect for altcoins. Right now, I want to walk you through the different perspectives of what everyone is saying, what to expect moving into the end of the week, and what you should be doing if you're thinking about buying altcoins or if you have altcoins yourself. Overall though, if you're new to my channel, check out the rest of my content. I keep you guys updated on the day-to-day events, price action around Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, how liquidity is shifting, and everything you need to be aware of. As I said, last week was about inflation data, how the markets were looking. That data came out. There is a lot of revisions on the labor market, and this week we're going to be seeing a lot of that data come out, just seeing exactly how we're closing September. From here, we're also going to be moving into some more important events and also those expectations around deviations with the call of the top. You've been hearing this from a lot of investors and a lot of traders, and you've been seeing the pumps and the dips that have been taking place. So with all that being said, let's go to jump straight into the markets, what you need to be aware of, and also what you should be focusing on. So as I said, the markets for the 24-hour period, guys, opening for Monday today, everything is seeing a little bit of green. Bitcoin sitting at around 114,000 after sitting at around 109, 110,000 over the weekend. Ethereum currently sitting at around that 4,200 region, also making a little bit of a move upwards, pretty much breaking back out of that 3,900 region that we were seeing previously as well. The total 3E chart is following the price action around Ethereum, so just trading sideways based off of what we're seeing with this chart. And also Bitcoin dominance has been seeing a little bit of a recovery, and this is where we've been anticipating that we more than likely are going to be moving back into that 60% region. But right now we have some key news events that are going to be happening this week that is mainly revolved around the labor market, and this is something that has a huge effect on the market, guys. How the economy is working, how the Fed is going about rate cuts, and how investor sentiment is. And whenever we see a lot of moving parts, not only in our economy but in other economies around the world as well, it doesn't look too hot. So right now we have some key data that you need to be focusing on, and this is going to let us know how that volatility is looking. KillXBT has been following the price action around Bitcoin, and he gives his perspective around a CME gap and pretty much some areas of opportunity and potentially how we could be seeing a huge pump or potentially a deviation before that next leg up for Bitcoin. Dr. Profit has been talking about how there is a ton of top signals saying that overall right now is not the best time, especially with the mother of all top signals, Jim Cramer, being bullish on Bitcoin and calls for everyone to start buying crypto. So there's multiple things going into that. There is more bullish perspectives around altcoins with people like Crypto Michanel giving his perspective around the 20-week moving average around Bitcoin, the correction we're seeing on altcoins, and what that should mean for altcoin investors like you and me. Benjamin Cohen has been keeping us updated though around Bitcoin dominance and how he has expectations that Bitcoin is going to start squeezing out liquidity moving into October, especially with Ethereum and the price action that we've been seeing and the corrections that are currently taking place. Like how I said, green happening in the market for the 24-hour, alt seeing a little bit of green as well, but is it going to be lasting? That's the key question. Right now, like how I said, we're holding a key zone for Bitcoin. This is where we've been testing consecutively throughout the weeks. You can see the price action that we've been seeing, guys, and overall we test these zones, and from there we start to deviate, and this is where everyone starts to focus on that 107,000 region where we previously were around, then moving into that 111, 114,000 zone and onwards and upwards based off of specific CME gaps. Now, moving forward into it, Ethereum is where we're going to really, be focused on, because this lets us know how altcoins are performing. We did see that little correction pumping back up above 4,000, but are we going to be holding this region? I'm expecting that more than likely we're still going to be seeing some green moving into the remainder of the week, especially if we have some positive data come out around the labor markets. But right now with the revisions, I'm not, expecting any hot data, but at the end of the day, I've been shocked in multiple different ways when it comes to the markets in general. Now, the total 3E chart, guys, you can see that everything is just trading sideways, waiting to see exactly if we're going to have a breakout or exactly if we're going to be seeing a deviation. And you can see that the price action has been getting slightly weaker as we are moving up and testing this specific area of resistance. So this is going to be really key if we're going to be breaking out, or potentially we're going to be seeing another dump down. Also, Bitcoin dominance, we talked about it, guys, and how we were expecting expecting moving into that 60% region. But right now we're sitting at 58, waiting for that next big leg move for Bitcoin. Now, the key news events that are happening this week go as follows. So moving into Tuesday, which is tomorrow, or by the time you're even watching this video, we have the August JOLTS job openings data and also the CB consumer confidence data as well. Moving into Wednesday, we have the September ADP non-farm employment data, September ISM manufacturing PMI data as well. On Thursday, we have the initial jobless claims data, and then on Friday, we have the September jobs report. Thursday and Friday are going to be super key for exactly how we close out the week, especially just moving into the end and whenever the markets are going to be closing for the week in terms of the US market. And then also that ADP non-farm employment data and the ISM manufacturing PMI data as well. Moving into tomorrow, it's already going to start getting a little volatile, but as we get further into the week, that data is really going to let us know how everyone is feeling. And this is where the Kobesi letter lets us know that all this is basically around the labor market. So this is super important to be anticipating, just because these events, guys, have a huge effect on volatility in the market. Now, if we move into a few different perspectives around Bitcoin and the price action that's been moving, I follow consecutive, perspectives from different analysts and traders, but I usually gravitate towards whoever's being the most accurate in the time span that we're currently seeing. And in the last few weeks, I've been seeing that Killer XBT and Dr. Profit have been the individuals that have been calling specific regions, specific areas of liquidity, and also whenever we start to see pumps and dumps in the market. And they are also individuals that validate and invalidate their perspectives, as opposed to a lot of the people that are just preaching altcoin season. So Killer XBT gives us great perspective around Bitcoin. It says the further Bitcoin pushes away from the CME gap it created at 109,200, the higher the chances we end up seeing a new all-time high. We have only formed a few of these particular gaps, like the one at 73K, and we talked about this previously as well, which usually forms on the verge of a next leg. If Bitcoin starts pushing down to 112 to 111K, another region we've been talking about, later through this week, it strengthens the chances of this gap being filled soon. However, if Bitcoin continues to push further to the upside, it strengthens the chances of this gap not being filled for a few months, like the one at 73K. If the bullish case plays out, Bitcoin ends up creating a new all-time high and then pushes down to the gap later in Q4, which is what a lot of people are anticipating. But if the bearish case plays out, Bitcoin ends up rejecting and pushing closer to the gap, means a higher chance of filling relatively soon. So paying attention to the market structure is going to be quite important if you're trying to target this gap. So this is something that a lot of people are anticipating with this upward move that we're seeing, and potentially if we can hold that specific zone that shows that strength, or if we're going to be deviating and then from there seeing a little bit more sideways price action for another month or so before we see a leg up. But overall, keeping up with the price action on a macro lens is super important, because yes, a lot of us are investing for the long term, waiting for everything to move over, but everyone gets so caught up in a day-to-day perspective. And this is where you can understand how Bitcoin moves on a weekly time frame and then on a day-to-day time frame as well. So as we are moving throughout the week, we're going to be keeping up with these zones and exactly what that means for Ethereum and altcoins as well. Now, Dr. Profit has been giving his perspective around the markets, and overall, he's just been calling the top like crazy, guys, talking about different deviations that have been taking place, all the insiders that have been selling, exactly when he sold his assets, and also how much he has made by pretty much just validating what has been taking place. He goes on to talk about exactly the mother of top signals, which we were previously talking about. He says with Jim Cramer, he says Jim Cramer is now bullish on Bitcoin and calls to buy crypto. On top of that, he is publishing a book by tomorrow on how to make money. These top signals should not be ignored, as Bitcoin is moving in top area territory. Too much bullish noise in the market. And this is where, a lot of people are still calling for altcoin season. A lot of people are still very bullish. And even myself, I'm bullish on altcoin season. But people like Dr. Profit are expecting massive deviations and overall liquidations in the market based off of specific price action that we have been seeing, and also where we have been headed in the last few weeks. So this is super important data. I don't want to jump into every single thing that Dr. Profit is talking about, because overall, he's pretty much just talking about exactly the tops for multiple assets and how insiders are selling their assets, and how more than likely he would not be betting on longing the market, more on shorting the market. So that's all I have to say about Dr. Profit. Whenever we have another relative update from the individual, I'll be sure to let you guys know. I know a few of y'all aren't the biggest fans of Dr. Profit, but being able to take, advice from other individuals that have been in the space longer than you, and even understand that they could be wrong, but understand exactly where we have been headed and also what is taking place based off of previous price action. Now, Crypto Mitch now talks about exactly what's going on with Bitcoin, and he says this is great, a great chart on Bitcoin. It's holding above the 20-week moving average after a corrective week, and starts the week with a strong upward bounce. I think that we've seen the low. This chart looks primed for a big breakout upwards, and this is where it kind of ties back in to Killa XBT's perspective on exactly how more than likely we could be seeing a giant rip up based off of the comparison with the CME gap that was created at 109,000, and comparing it to gaps like the one at the 73K region, which we had previously seen. So this just goes in to say that more than likely we could be seeing a pump up, but no one truly knows. That's why it's really great to allocate to the market, understand that potential pumps could be happening, but at the end of the day, sideways price action is still on the table. Also, jumping more into it with Crypto Mitchinell's perspective, he goes on to say that he stated it multiple times, but this correction is a magnificent opportunity to be positioned into altcoins. The recent listings on Binance have proven to be strong ones, and he thinks we'll start to see a big resurrection of many of those coins. So right now, guys, I think a lot of coins are down in the dumps, but a lot of people are building in the assets that are really going to make it moving into the end of 2025 and into 2026, and right now is really a buy the dip season, and it's significantly easy season for not a lot of people, but at the end of the day, in terms of perspective, because for altcoins, all you need to do is buy the dip, and right now we're seeing that massive dip, and this is where you need to take advantage of it if you actually believe in what's going to be taking place in the next few months. Benjamin Cohen sums us up with giving us the more, I guess, real perspective on what's going to be happening, and exactly what's also going to be happening moving into October, altcoin season believers, and what has been happening. He's been talking about how a lot of gurus are talking, a lot of smack on how altcoin season is going to happen, but the moment that he actually starts to talk crap to them and say, hey, what's going on, and they start playing the victim. And I think this is really funny, and this is why you really should be following the right sources of information, because a lot of big calls could cause you to lose a lot of money if you're not focused on the right information. And a lot of people have just been preaching altcoin season, but overall, people like Benjamin Cohen have been talking about Bitcoin dominance, and how potentially Bitcoin is going to be squeezing a lot of the liquidity out of the market, and more than likely we're going to be seeing an upward move for Bitcoin moving into the end of 2025, and then from there seeing that correction that a lot of people are expecting. But overall, this is where I try to give you the perspectives around not only analysts and traders, but investors, and also people that have been here for multiple cycles that don't really tie in too much emotion. They just give you the numbers and tell you exactly what is taking place, and that's Benjamin Cohen. Now, cryptocurrency, guys, overall is not looking too hot, even though we're seeing some green in the markets. Everything is just trading sideways, waiting to see what's going to be happening next. All crypto across the board. Altcoins particularly are seeing a little bit more of the pain. You can see some assets are seeing a little bit of green for the 24 hours, some for the 7-day even as well, just because some of these assets are at their floor. A lot of these reached their floor, and as soon as they reached it, they saw a lot of buying action. And this is where, if you're keeping up with the assets you invest in, you know what those floors look like, and you're not exactly too worried. This is where a few of these assets are currently sitting, and this is where I'm potentially looking to get more positions, but I want to see how the markets are going to be closing out, and also moving into October with more rate cuts, and how Bitcoin potentially is going to be squeezing out liquidity. But that is currently what is taking place. We have some key news events that are going to be happening around the labor market, which is going to be causing a lot of volatility. Right now, the markets are looking a little bit green, but we were expecting a little bit of a pump moving into the start of the week. Right now, there's anticipation that potentially we could be seeing a giant rip up based off of a CME gap previously and how the setup is looking as well for Bitcoin, but also there could be a bearish standpoint with this and we see more liquidations in the market. We have already seen massive liquidations in this past week, and I'm sure that more than likely we're going to probably be seeing a little bit more before that giant next leg up. But you can't be one of those people that liquidate your bag. If you do, you're pretty much done. You're out of the markets and you're not planning on, playing for altcoin season, and that's where everyone makes all the money. And on this channel, I try to help you guys navigate this space, understand what causes that volatility, and then just get a better grip on what is taking place in the market so that you can feel confident with your decisions. But if you're new to my channel, go ahead and check out the rest of my content. Like I said, I keep you updated on the day-to-day events, price action on Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, how liquidity is shifting, and everything you need to be aware of. Moving into the week, I'm gonna keep letting you guys know everything that is taking place and what you need to know and exactly why things happen, the liquidations in the market, the expectations around rate cuts, and then also the data when it comes out and also how it has effect on investor sentiment. So multiple moving parts, guys, a lot of things happening, but altcoin season is on the horizon and you don't want to be one of those people that misses out. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned. Let me know if you guys have any questions or content suggestions. I'd love to help everyone out. Overall, I'm going to be dropping a gaming coin video. I was super busy this week, so apologies for that, but I'm going to be dropping a video around gaming coins and in a few other specific sectors like AR, RWA, and potentially a few other ones as well. So drop me those comments, like, subscribe, and hopefully I catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.